Let's take you back to the assassination attempt on Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi. Joining us now to have this conversation is international affairs analyst Dr. Bola Adediro. He joins me on the news via Skype from the UK. Good to have you join us, Dr. Adediro.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just start by getting your thoughts on this assassination attempt. It sort of came as a shock because one would think that Iraq is now rebuilding. The country held elections 2 months ago, and yet there's these security challenges up to the level where there was an assassination attempt on the life of the Prime Minister. Talk to us about your thoughts on this.
Well, what is happening in Iraq at the moment is linked directly to the elections in October 2021. You will recall that some Iranian-backed militia groups, political parties that have affiliations to Iran, lost significant numbers of seats in the last elections and have been very uncomfortable with the results of the October elections. So this attack, there is clear evidence that this attack was launched by those groups. The Iraqi Prime Minister al-Kadhimi came out today to say that they have identified the individuals responsible for it, and Iraqi intelligence sources named in particular Kataib Hezbollah. Now, Kataib Hezbollah is a group that has a long history in Iraq. It was formed in 2003 by Iraqi-Iranian Mohandis, who was killed in 2020 alongside the Iranian commander Soleimani. And that group has been operating for a long time. It fought against U.S. coalition forces in Iraq. It also was part of the Popular Mobilization Forces that fought against ISIS in 2014 after Ali Sistani placed a fatwa asking for Iraqis to rise up against ISIS. What has happened is that since 2016, all these Iranian militias and Iranian-backed paramilitary groups have tried to sort of insert themselves in Iraqi politics, and they held significant number of seats until the elections in October 2021. And when they lost seats, they obviously were not comfortable because they started making claims about lack of transparency, frauds, and corruption in the elections. And they've been asking for a recount, they've been asking for a change in those election results. So analysts are saying
Can you hear me, Dr. Bola Adediro? So I was going to ask you about what this means for Iraq itself, because that country is just coming out of a state of chaos that saw it controlled by external forces. And then what it also means for the region, this kind of attempt, that region is highly volatile. We know that Iran is battling with Israel. Israel is battling with Palestine. There is chaos between militias in Yemen and Saudi Arabia, just a region that is that volatile. What does this mean? Can you hear me, Dr. Bola Adediro? All right, so I'm not sure Dr. Adediro can hear me. We'll allow him fix the audio. When we have him, we'll continue that. All right, Dr. Adediro, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so I was asking you what it means for that region, seeing that it is highly volatile, with crisis between some countries, Iran, for example, and Israel and the Palestinian Israel. There's the Israel-Palestinian conflict. There is Saudi Arabia and the militias in Yemen. There is the Taliban in Afghanistan. Just a very volatile region. If this were successful, thank God it wasn't. But what would this have meant for that region?
I think the greatest risk for Iraq at the moment is the possibility that destabilization in Iraq could lead to further disintegration of the country and possibly not only a civil war, because Iraq is composed of many ethnicities and religious groups, but more importantly also is the threat posed by ISIS. ISIS is not completely done and dusted in that region. In fact, ISIS launched an attack in Iraq a couple of weeks ago that resulted in the death of 15 people. And ISIS is still active in Syria, particularly. In fact, reports reaching us now say that ISIS still has maybe about almost between 1,000 and 10,000 fighters in Syria. So there is always a possibility of ISIS resurging. As you've mentioned rightly, ISIS is gaining grounds in Afghanistan. So I would say that that is the most significant risk that comes from that would have come from this kind of the unfortunate situation if it had been successful, really.
All right, we know that Iran is still at the tipping point. It was controlled. It was a point of chaos where it was controlled by external forces. Luckily, the Prime Minister used to be an intelligence officer. Hopefully, he's on top of this, and we'll see perpetrators brought to book. Thank you so much for your thoughts, as always, Dr. Bola Adediran.